Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this session, we shall try to understand what is root locus, why we are using the root locus, how to plot the root locus efficiently, and how to interpret the root locus. Root locus actually is a powerful graphical presentation which is used for the analysis and design of the system stability and transient response of higher order linear time invariant system. Root locus qualitatively describe the performance of control system by changing various system parameters. For example, the impact of varying gain upon the time response parameter of the system can be observed from the root locus. In earlier we already the qualitative parameters which is also called the time response analysis. So we already described in the earlier sessions. In which we should know the damping of the system, that whether a system is overdamped, critically damped, and underdamped, or marginally stable system, which is also called the undamped system. Also, we know that from the route stability criteria that if the there is also we can also use route stability criteria for the stability analysis of the system. So in the route stability criteria, we observe the number of the sign changes. So if there is any sign change, so we say that the poles they are in the right half plane of the complex plane or S plane, and we say that once the poles cross the imaginary axis, then move into the right half plane of the complex plane, so the system is no more stable. So but we see that the route stability criteria, the route stability criteria which was used for stability analysis, but does not give information of pole location. So actually it gives only the information that whether the poles are available in the right half plane or in the left half plane. So we see that if the poles are all the poles they are in the left half plane, so we say that the system is stable. But now another thing is the system gain. Suppose that we have this unit feedback system where we have this gain K1, and then we have another system with gain K2, and then we have S over S plus 10. So this is the transfer function of the system. Then we have the control signal, which is CS. At the input, we have the input signal, which can be a unit step function, ramp function, depends. And let's say that we have a unit feedback system. In unit feedback system, the feedback transfer function is equal to 1, and let's say this is a negative feedback system. So you know about this one. Now let's say that if we find the closed loop transfer function, this we can find from remember the feedback transfer function. We know that if we have the forward transfer G, and then we have the feedback transfer H. This is the input function RS, this is the output function CS, and this is the feedback transfer function. We say that this is the negative feedback system. Then we know that G of S is equal to what, or you can say that the overall control system transfer function of the system, let's say TS is equal to G divided by 1 plus GH. We already know the closed loop transfer function. We developed this relationship So you can watch the earlier session of this course to know that how we can get this function. So we know this one now. With this closed loop transfer function we can use for the figure number figure 1. So if we use for that one, so we see that this will become equal to T of S, or you can also say G of S will become equal to what? K1, K2, and then this will be equal to S over S plus 10. So this is G, this is G, and we have the function over here. This is the input function, this is the negative feedback system, and we say that this is a unit feedback system, and at the output we have the control system. So you see that here if we compare this one with the previous figure, this is H, this is G. With this one you see G and this is H. So if we compare with this one, then the closed loop transfer function will become equal to G divided by 1 plus GH. So here the closed loop transfer function will become equal to G of S will become equal to G, which is equal to this one, K1, K2 divided by S over S plus 10 divided by 1 plus GH. So 1 plus this one, K1, K2 divided by S divided by S plus 10. So let's say we say that K1 multiplied by K2 is equal to K, and simplify this one. So if you simplify this one, then we will get G of S will be equal to K divided by square plus 10S plus this K. So this K is called the system gain. So we have to change the value of the K, and if you will change the value of the K, we said that the location of the pole also changes. From here we can get the location of the poles from the characteristic equation, or you can say the denominator polynomial. So we know that G of S is equal to numerator polynomial. In terms of the polynomial, we can also write like this. So this is the denominator polynomial, or we can also say that in terms of the roots, this will be equal to I equal to 0 to M, and this will be equal to S minus Zi divided by, in terms of the roots, this will be equal to S minus Pi, where Pi is the poles and Zi are the zeros of the transfer function. Means those values of S for which the transfer function become equal to 0 are called the zeros of the transfer function, and for those values for which the transfer function become equal to infinity, we say that it will give you the poles of the transfer function. So this equation, the earlier equation, this one. So in this equation, we can get the pole information from the denominator function from ds, which is equal to s square plus 10s plus k, from this equation. Now this k is called the gain of the system, and we will see that if we will change the value of the k, the pole will also change its location. Let's suppose we have this one. Let's we have the G of S, which is equal to the denominator polynomial D of S, which is equal to S square plus 10S plus K. And let's see that how the poles will change the location. Let us make the table. This is the value of K. This is pole 1, and this is P2, you can say pole 2. Pole 2. We have 2 poles. Let's say that K is equal to 0. So if K is equal to 0, you see the denominator polynomial will become equal to, if you are going to find the poles, so this will become equal to 0 plus 10s, plus 0, this will become equal to 0. So we say that we will get the equation S plus 10 is equal to 0. So S is equal to 0 or S is equal to minus 10. So we get these two poles. So when K is equal to 0, S will be either equal to minus 10 or equal to 0. Similarly, if you will use the what is called the another value. Let me use the same, which is equal to s square plus 10s plus k. You say that the value of the k is equal to what? Is equal to 25. If this is equal to 25, then to find the pole, this should be equal to 0. Because when the denominator polynomial become equal to 0, so numerator polynomial divided by 0 will give you the infinity. So those values are for which the transfer function become equal to infinity, we say that these are the poles in this one. So yeah, so when this become equal to 0, so the transfer function will become equal to infinity. That is why we are making it equal to 0. Now let's say that we increase the value of the k to 25 from 0 to 25. So if you will increase the value of this one, and if you solve this equation, again d of s will become equal to s square plus 10s plus 25 is equal to 0. So this will become equal to s square plus 2 multiplied by 5 multiplied by s by completing square method, plus 5 square, or you can say s plus 5 square is equal to 0. So this means that s is equal to minus 5 and minus 5. So we have two poles at minus 5. So when k is equal to 25, then we have one pole at minus 5 and another one is also equal, the pole is at minus 5. We have two poles at minus 5. Similarly, if you will increase the value of the k, suppose this is equal to 30, then this will move to minus 5 plus 2.2j 4j, and this will be equal to minus 5 minus 2.24j. When this will become equal to 50, this will be equal to minus 5 minus plus 5j, and this will become equal to minus 5 minus 5j. So you see that as the gain is changed, the poles location are also changed. So graphically, if we show this one, you see this is left as an exercise. Please try for this one and also try for this one, so we get these pole equations. Now let's see that what happens graphically. So graphically, initially what we have, this is the complex plane, S plane. So when k is equal to 0, please check this one. When k is equal to 0, so we have two poles. One pole is at 0 and another one is at minus 10. So we have two poles. One pole is at 0, this location. Sorry. One is at this location. This is one pole, and another pole is at minus 10. This is 0 and this is minus 10. When pole is equal to, when k is equal to 25, when gain is increased, the pole is changed to minus 5. Both pole move toward the minus 5. So this pole, you see, as you change the value of k, so this moves and it comes to minus 5, and the another one also come to minus 5. So this is minus 5, so we have two poles at minus 5. So we see that as the value of the gain is changed, the pole move along the real axis. Similarly, when the gain is further increased to 30 and similarly to 50, then it you see the real axis. Now this one, this is fixed. You see this one. You see the real axis. This is the real point on the point on the real axis that is fixed, but the imaginary value is increased. So first it is 2.4 and then it is 5 and so on. If you will further increase the gain, so this the pole will move along the imaginary axis. So please check this one. So when we further increase the gain, the poles come to this point, and when we increase more, suppose this one, So it come to this point and so on. So initially you see that when the gain is equal to 0, we started with the poles on the real axis, and as the gain is changed, you see the pole move towards some points. Finally we got the two poles at the same point, and then and then the poles, they move in the along the imaginary axis. Along the imaginary axis. Now this is difficult to say that which pole move upward and which move downward. Means that which pole move toward the positive imaginary axis and which go toward the negative imaginary axis. But you see that when they are at the same point, then they are actually the same poles. So there is it is not important that which goes to the upward and which goes to the downward. Anyhow, you see that they are symmetrical, which means that you see this value and this value, they remain the same. So above the real axis and below the real axis on the imaginary axis, they are at the same location. Similarly, this one, see this one and this one. So this is called the symmetry. So there will be apart from the real axis, above the real axis and below the real axis by equal distance or equal length. Now what we observe from this one, see that initially k is equal to 0. So when k was equal to 0, the system, you see the two poles, they are at the along the real axis and they are apart from each other. And we already know that if the poles are along the real axis, and they are apart from each other, then we say that the performance of the system will be an overdamped system. So response will be overdamped system. Number 2, when k was equal to 25, the two poles, they move toward each other and we got two poles at the same point. And we say that when we have two poles at the same point, it has the critical damping response. The time response will be critical damp. And when k is greater than 25, then we say that this is now an under damped system. Means that initially what happens if you will compare this with the second order system, because we consider the second order system, which is what the general equation for the second order system is omega n square divided by s square. Sorry, this is a square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square. So if you will compare the transfer function, which is equal to k divided by s square plus 10s plus k. So you see that when k is equal to 0, then we can say that when we say that let's say that k is less than 25. So, or you can also say that let's k is equal to 25. So when k is equal to 25, then this t is this one. To say this is t2 and this is t1. So we say that this is equal to 25, which is actually equal to what? 5 square. So omega n is 5, and this will be equal to 2 zeta n plus 2 zeta multiplied by 5 is plus 5 square. So what is the value of zeta? Zeta is equal to 1. So this means that when k is equal to 25, the response of the system will be critical damped system. So we already know that when zeta is equal to 1, so the response of the system will be critically damped. Similarly, you can also try for k less than 25, and then you will get the overdamped system with zeta less than 1. Zeta greater than 1, so it will be in overdamped system, and this will be for k less than 25. You see, for k less than 25, the two poles there are, you see over here. So for k less than 25, the two poles they are along the real axis and they are apart from each other. Over here you can also say, we see that when k is less than 25, the two poles they are at the real axis, this one and this one. And when the k become equal to 25, the two we got the two pole at the same point. And also from the time response analysis, we can see that when k is equal to 25, then zeta is equal to 1, and zeta is equal to 1, we are getting the critically damped system. Similarly, if you will try for k greater than 25, then you will get the zeta less than 1. Zeta will be less than 1 for k greater than 25, and this is called the under damped system. So in terms of the time response analysis, you see that let's say that we have the unit step function as the input function. We have the second order system. So when k is equal to, when k is less than 25, we say that this is what, this is zeta is greater than 1, and it should be an overdamped system. So it will be like this. In overdamped system, we do not have the overshoot. Now this one, when k is equal to 25, then zeta was equal to 1, and we say that this is critical damped system. So this is critical damped system. Also we see that when k, I will say this one. Also we see that when k is greater than 25, then zeta, you can prove this one from the second order system. This one, you can place omega n square greater than 25. So if you will place this greater than 25, then this should be less than 1. And for less than 1, we have the under damped system. Under damped system, and for under system, we got the system with the overshoot, and then we get the steady state position. So you see that actually if you look back to this function, this plot, the complex plane, the pole movements will actually give you the complete behavior of the system. Also the location of the poles will give you the complete behavior of the system. If the two poles you see on the real axis and they are apart from each other, the response of the system should be what is called the overdamped response. If the two poles you see, if they are coming close to each other, if you will increase the gain, and especially when you increase the gain to such a point where the two poles they lie at the same point, then the response should be equal to the critically would be equal to the damping will become equal to critical damping, and you see there will be no overshoot in this case also. But as you increase the value of the k further of the system, if you increase the gain of the system, this constant value, if you will increase it further, now the pole will move into the complex plane and along the imaginary axis, and as it go into the imaginary axis, the poles will be symmetrical, but you see the response will become equal to the under damping or the under damped system, or we will get the under damped system. So we will get the overshoot. Also the root locus is giving you the accurate location of the poles. You see, this is the accurate location of the poles, or any poles is the accurate what is called the, it will give you the accurate location of the poles. Now what is the root locus? Now root locus is the path traced by the poles. You see this complete path from here, and then this one upward. This path are from here and then this downward. This path traced by the poles as you increase the value of the k. Now this is called the root locus. Now we already know that if you will increase the if you will increase the suppose we have this one. So we have these two functions, and let's say that the response of the system is what? For the unit step function, let's say that this is the response. This is the response. So we have an overshoot because this is in underdamped system, and let's say that the poles they are closer to the what is called the real axis. But let's say that we are changing the location, or we are increasing the gain such that the poles move into the complex plane, but the real axis that is fixed. You see, this one is fixed, but the imaginary axis is changing. So in that case, what will happen? The system will become more underdamped. Yeah, underdamping will increase. So underdamping increase means the overshoot will increase. So you are actually increasing the overshoot. And similarly, you can further increase this one. Similarly, we know that if we keep the what is called the let's say that we keep the imaginary axis fixed. This one, let's say that we keep this one fixed. So if we will keep this one fixed, and let's say that the poles they are moving in, you see the root locus that is moving in this one, in this location. So instead of the above this one, so instead of this one, let's say that we are changing the real axis and keeping the imaginary axis to be fixed. So in that case, what will happen? In that case, we will get the, you see, you are making the system more stable. So you are actually what will happen now? You can easily see that the rise time that is the same, but you are making the system stability. You are increasing the system stability, so the system will become stable early. Or you can also say that you are reducing the overshoot in this case. Similarly, you can also increase the rise time if you will move the what is called along this axis. Let's say that we got this one. So instead of this one, let's say that we are increasing in the fixed ratio. Let's say that the root locus is increasing in this order. So if the root locus is this case the path is increasing with a constant ratio, now in this case you are actually improving the what is called the rise time, but the overshoot will remain the same. So what will happen in this case? You are getting the same overshoot, but with this one. So you see that the overshoot compared to this black response, you see represented with the black color, in the green color, so they have the same overshoot. You see the overshoot remains the same, but the rise time they increase. Also the settling time will increase. So you can design the system such that you can improve. You can see that whether the you can increase the gain of the system, or you can change the pole location such that the gain or the root locus move in the with the constant ratio. So it depends on whether you are increasing the rise time, you are reducing the overshoot, etc., or you are getting the what is called the steady state earlier compared to the one with the red represented with the red line. So the thing is that we are actually getting the response of the system from the root locus. So if we properly plot the root locus, we can say that we understand the system stability. Also we know about the what is called the response of the system, especially the higher order linear time invariant system. because for the first order system and the second order system we can use the what is called analytical models that we earlier developed. But for the higher order system, it will be difficult to develop the same analytical model, or you have to develop it again and again for each and every increase in the value of the S. So if you want to generally know about the system response, then we have to understand two things, especially to know about the stability of the system. We can analyze the stability of system using the Raoult stability criteria. But remember that the Raoult stability criteria gives you only the information about whether a system is stable or not. So if there is any pole in the right half plane, so we say that it is unstable, otherwise it will give you the stable. Also it can give you the marginal stable system if the poles are located along the imaginary axis. But you see, if you want to completely know about the stability of the system, the response of the higher order system, then the root locus will give you the exact information. So it will give you the root locations. Also, it will give you how the roots or the poles will change its location if you will increase the gain of the system. So that is why the root locus, that is an important topic, and we will try to understand how to plot the root locus efficiently. So the root locus efficiently or easily, so that we know about the system's response of the higher order system or the stability of the higher order system. So there are some rules for plotting the root locus. You see that in this one, you see that we have some poles, and then we say that as we increase the gain, so the poles they change the location and then they move toward each other. So you see, we will have developed such kind of the system in which we will easily say that how the poles will change its location if you will increase the gain of the system. Also, symmetry, you already know about the symmetry over here, because about the symmetry we will talk. You see that once the poles move into the complex plane, the real axis that remains constant, but the imaginary axis that is changing. You see, the imaginary axis is changing when you keep changing the value of the system gain. But the poles, they are at equal distance from the, you see, from the real axis. So this is called the symmetry. So the poles, they are above the real axis and below the real axis, but you see this is above the real axis, below the real axis over here, but they are at equal distance. You see this one and then this one, so they are at equal distance. So this is called the symmetry. So the first thing is, so we should know about plotting the root locus. So this is what general rules are plotting a root locus. Number one is the symmetry. So we already know that, you see, earlier we said that S is equal to 5 minus 5 and then plus minus j 5. So we can say in general, we can say that this is a negative real number, and then plus minus j, and then we again have a real number. So it can be 2.5, 2.3, that is why we said that this is the real number. So for the negative feedback system, so R dash is the negative real number and this should be the positive real number. And J represents the complex plane, which means that, you see, this is the real, what is called the 0. So this is 0 and this is the negative real axis. So, and then we say that the poles they are located at minus R or minus 5, and then you say plus 5, and this is minus 5. Minus 5. So one pole is located over here and the other one is located over here. So this is minus 5 plus j5, and this one is equal to minus 5 minus j5, minus 5 minus j5, and this one is equal to minus 5 plus j5. So this is called symmetry. So remember that if there is what is called the pole, the root locus is actually the path traced by the pole as you will increase the value of the k. So as you change the value of the k from 0 to some higher value, from 0 to you see, if you will change from 0 to some higher value, you say the infinity, so the pole will change its path. Let's say if this one, so if this one is moving upward, then this one will also be moving downward in the same direction. But if the first one is moving in this one direction, suppose in some cases we will develop this one, so the second one, the pole below the real axis, it will be a mirror image of the same one, this one. So what is the mirror image of this one? Mirror image of this one is this one. Sorry, my plotting is not correct, so it will be this one. So you see they are moving in the same direction, so it will be a mirror image. This is called symmetry. If the above one, suppose if the above one is moving in this direction, then the second one will also move in this direction. So this is called the symmetry, and you will get a mirror of the root locus above and below. So this is called symmetry, and we have to use this symmetry when we are plotting the root locus, especially when we have the poles in the complex plane, because in the complex plane we should follow the symmetry. Number 2 is the number of branches. Number of branches. So the number of the branches of the root locus must be equal to maximum of m and n, where m is the order of the numerator polynomial. So order of the numerator polynomial is m, and the order of the denominator polynomial is n, which you can also say that the number of zeros and the number of the poles. So whichever is the maximum, the number of the branches will be equal to the maximum. So if the number of poles are maximum, then the number of the branches in the root locus will be equal to the number of the poles. And if the number of the poles they are the number of zeros are maximum, then the number of branches will be equal to the number of the zeros. For example, let's say that we have what is called this the same one, or let's say that the earlier example that we developed. You see the earlier example that we developed, which is equal to what? This one. So we have one pole at 0 and then one pole at minus 10, and you see that as you change the value of the gain, so the poles they move along some path, and then they go into the complex plane. You see that the number of the branches will be equal to is equal to the number of the paths, this root locus. So one is this one, and the another one is this one, downward. You can also see that this is symmetrical. So above and below, that is a mirror image. So this is symmetrical. So we call it symmetry. Also, the number of the branch in this case is equal to the number of the poles. Since we have only 2 poles, so we say that the number of the branches will be equal to 2. So one is this one, the upward, and the another one is this downward. Now the third point is the start and the end point, and then we will try with some root locus. So number 3 is the start and end points, which means that from where the root locus will start and where it should end. So we know that from the closed loop transfer function, from T of S, we have what? We have the numerator polynomial, and then we have the denominator polynomial. Also we know that from the feedback transfer function we have this is equal to what, g of s divided by 1 plus g of s multiplied by h of s. And let's say that now you have some gain of the system also with the g, for example, which means that what you have, so instead of g, let's say you have g kg of s, and then since we develop this for the negative feedback system, so this is negative, and let's say this is the h of s, and we have the feedback transfer function. Let's say this is the control signal and this is the input signal. So we develop this equation T of s is equal to gs divided by 1 plus this one, but since now we have k, so we use the value of k. So let us we have this one, we have this expression. Let us use the characteristic equation, and the characteristic equation is this one. So from the characteristic equation we should be equal to 1 plus k g of s multiplied by h of s, and this should be equal to 0. This should be equal to 0. So let's say that we know that g of s is a forward transfer function. This is the feedback transfer function, and we can also write this in terms of the number of the what is called the roots. So let's say that we write this in terms of the roots. So if you write this in terms of roots, we will get 1 plus k. This will be equal to product of s minus zi, and let's represent this with g, so that this means the forward transfer function, divided by this is equal to s minus pi, and this is also g. This is also g, means this is the what is called the forward transfer function, multiplied by product of s minus, again this is equal to what, this is equal to zi divided by product of s minus pi, but use h, which means the feedback transfer function. Now this will be equal to from I equal to 1 to m, and this will be equal to I equal to 1 to n, similarly I equal to 1 to m, and this will be equal to I equal to 1 to n, which means that we have m number of zeros and n number of poles in both the forward transfer function as well as the feedback transfer function, and this is the characteristic equation of the the closed loop transfer function g of s. This is the characteristic equation. Now let us make this one equal to 0, because in the above equation this is equal to 0. And let us simplify this one. So if you will simplify this one, then you will get what, the product of s minus pi g multiplied by what, the product of s minus pi this h, I equal to 1 to n, similarly I equal to 1 to n, and then we have plus k, again you have product of I equal to 1 to m, what, s minus zi of this g, and similarly this will be equal to product of 1 to m, and this will be s minus zi of this h, and let's say this is equal to 0, so the denominator when you multiply with 0 will become equal to 0. Now let us make k equal to 0. So when k is equal to 0 in this equation number 1, let's say that k is equal to 0, because we say that we have to increase the gain of the system. So when k gain of the system from 0 to infinity or higher value, so if you will increase if you will make k equal to 0, the equation 1, you see the when k is multiplied with the this part where we have s minus zi, where we have the zeros information, so this will become equal to 0, and we are left only with the poles. So we are left only with the poles, which is equal to 1 to s minus pi of g, and this will be equal to multiply by product of 1 to n, and this will be equal to h minus pi r h, and we say that this is equal to 0. So we say that when k is equal to 0, we start with the poles. So when k is equal to 0, we start with the poles. So we start with the poles, and where it should end, let us again make k equal to infinity. Let us make k equal to infinity in equation 1, in equation number 1, which is this one. So you see, when k is equal to infinity, then infinity multiplied by this one, so you cannot get the information. So you can bring this part, you see, you can bring this part to the other side or the right hand side, so it will become minus, and then you have to divide by k. So you are getting the information which is equal to what? S minus zi g, S minus zi h, and let's say that the product, this is the product when I is equal to 1 to m. So you can also use that information, and this will become equal to minus, again, product of 1 equal to n, s minus pi g, and s minus pi h, and then we divided this by k. And then we use the value of the k to be equal to infinity, so anything divided by infinity will become equal to 0, and we are left with what? I equal to 1 to m s minus zi of the open loop transfer function. Similarly, I equal to 1 to m s minus zi of the closed loop feedback transfer function, and this will become equal to 0, which means that when k is equal to infinity, locus will end at 0. In simple words, the root locus will start at the pole and end at the zeros of the system transfer function. Now let us number 4 is what? Number 4 is how the root locus, or you can say the root locus on the real axis. Locus on the real axis. How the root locus will start. Also this one. So the first one, you see, there will be symmetry. The second one is the number of the branches will be equal to maximum of the number of the poles or the number of the zeros. The third one is the start and end point. So the locus will start at the pole and end at the zeros. If they are finite equal in number, so the pole will start with the finite pole and the finite zero. If the 0 is at the infinity, so the pole will start with the finite pole and infinite 0. So, but the third one is the locus on the real axis. So this is also important. Please note that we have to count the poles. You see the zeros and the poles on the real axis. So our poles are zeros. If they are odd, remember odd. If they are odd, then locus will what is called exist to the left. See, left, L-E-F-T, left of poles oblique zeros. So the locus will exist to the left of poles and zeros. So the locus will exist to the left of poles and zeros. This is number 1. Number 2 is locus will exist to the right. So this, remember this, to the right of E1 numbers of poles zeros. Now this is important, and with this we will get some command over the root locus. For example, let's say that we have the transfer function, this one, t of s, which is equal to what, s plus 2 divided by s divided by s plus 4. So we have this one, let's say this is the transfer function, and we are going to plot the root locus for this one. So how we will know about the pole and zero information? So it is already known. So for those value of s for which the transfer function become equal to 0 are called the zeros of the system, and for those values for which the transfer function become equal to infinity are called the poles of the system. So where are the zeros? The zeros will be at s is equal to minus 2. Where are poles? Poles will be at s is equal to 0 or minus 4. So we have the zeros and the poles. Then we will plot the complex axis like this. So this is the negative side, and this is the positive side, and this is the imaginary side. This is the imaginary axis, and this is the real axis. So this is the location 0. So you see that the location 0, we have poles are represented with cross. So let me use this cross. So poles are represented with the cross, and zeros are represented with this O, this one. So we have one pole at over here, and the another pole we have where minus 4. So we have two poles. Similarly, we have 1 0, and 0 is at where 0 is minus 2. I hope this is clear to you. Now we have plotted two poles and 1 0 in the system, and now we are interested to plot the what is called the root locus. So how the root locus? Number one, the root locus start and end point. So we already said that the root locus will start from the poles and end at 0. Now which pole and which zero? So we have to count the poles from the positive toward the negative side. So if we will count, so this is equal to, you see, this is equal to 1, this is equal to 2, this is equal to 3. So this makes us clear that which pole or zero is even and odd. Number third is we will come to this one. We say that the locus exists to the left of the odd number of the poles. You see odd number of poles, and we say that the locus will exist to the right of the even number of poles and zeros. So we'll say that the locus will exist to the left of the odd number of poles. So this is the odd one, number 1, and number 3 is the odd one. So you see the locus will exist to the left of this odd number of poles. Also we know that the poles will start with the the locus will start at the pole and end at the 0. Now this is clear. So the first locus, it will start from the pole and end at 0. You see, and end at 0. Why this direction? Because the pole will lie to the exist to the left of the even number of the poles. You see, this is odd number of poles. So odd number of poles, so it is exists to the odd number of the exists to the left of the pole 1. You see, because it is odd. 0 is even, so we say that locus exists to the right of even. Pole are 0. So you see the locus exists to the right of the even and to the left of the odd number of the poles, and it started from the pole and end at zeros. So this 0 is finite if the another 0 is not known. So again you see the pole will start from this locus will start from this pole. This is again, this is odd, so the locus will start will be at the left of the odd number of the poles, and it will go toward the 0. and we said that the 0 in this case is at infinity. So now it is straightforward, and we observe that the locus exists along the real axis. It does not go into the imaginary axis, and we can say that this is which kind of the system is an Overdamped system. So this was straightforward. We easily understand that where this how we can easily you see translate the root locus also. Let's consider the another example also. This is another example. Let's say that we have the transfer function which is represented with what? Let's say we have s plus 2, and then we have s plus 3 divided by okay, the previous one, the number of the branches. So how many branches we have? We have 2 branches. See, one branch is this one, branch number 1, and this is the another branch. So we have, this is branch number 2, and we say that the number of the branches will be equal to maximum of poles and zeros. So how many poles are there? 2. So maximum of 2. And how many zeros are there? 1. So the branches will be equal to this one. So how many branches are there? You see, the branches are equal to the number of the poles. So it is also straightforward. Now let us consider this example. The closed loop transfer function, we have s plus 2, s plus 3 divided by s and s plus 4. So we have 2 poles at s is equal to 0 and s is equal to minus 4, and 2 zeros, one at minus 2 and another one is at minus 3. So let me plot the complex plane. So we have one pole over here, another pole is at minus 4, 0. Similarly, we have 1 0 at minus 2 and 1 0 at minus 3. And let us plot the what is called the root locus. So again we have to count 1, 2, 3, and this is 4. It does not necessitate that you write this one as long as you understand whether it is positive or it is odd or even. Number 2 is the locus will start from the, you see, from this side. So number 1 is this one. So we say that the root locus will start from the pole. So this is the pole, and we say that the locus will lie to the left of the odd number of the poles. So it lies to the left of the odd number of the poles, and similarly it is at the right of the even number of the zeros also. So it is clear. Number third one is again. So this is complete. Now again the another you see another branch. So another branch, you see a number, you see 0 is coming, but we say that the locus will start from the pole. So the pole is at number 4, this position. So at this position 4 is E1, and we say that the locus will exist to the right of the even number of the poles. So we say that the pole exists to the right of the even number of the poles, and then it will go, the end point will be 0. So it goes to the 0, and since the 0 is known, is finished, so it will finish over this one also. So you see the number of the branches again is equal to the maximum of the number of zeros or poles, so which are 2. So the number of branches is equal to 2. So this one was also straightforward. So we have this information, the two informations. Now the related to this one, start in locus on the real axis. Remember, this is for the negative feedback system. So, and this is for when k is greater than 0, means when k is positive. But what will happen if k is negative, or you can say the positive feedback system? When k is negative number or less than 0, when k is less than 0, then we will take the reciprocal of this one, the opposite of this one. Then we will say that the locus, if we have the odd number of poles, it will be at the right of the odd number of poles. And if we have the similarly, the locus will be the left of the even number of the poles for k less than 0. So we can also write this one for k less than 0. When k is negative value, then what will happen? Then we say that locus will exist to the right of a number of poles zeros. Number 2, locus will exist to the left of even number of poles are zeros. So this should be clear. Should not mix up this also. We can also have some example related to this one. Let's say that we have what? Let's say that we have this example k, where we have the transfer function which is equal to, let's say this we have no zeros, so -1 divided by, we have s over s plus 2 and s plus 4. So you see that here the gain is equal to what? Minus. It is less than 1. So now we will use this definition of the what is called for the root locus. We will use this one. So if you will place the poles, so we have one pole at s is equal to 0, another one at s is equal to -2, and the third one is at s is equal to -4, -4, -2, and we have one pole at s is equal to 0. So from where the root locus will start, you see 1, 2, 3, and then we say that the locus will start from the odd number of the from this side, and now since the gain is negative value, so we say that the locus will exist to the right of the odd number of poles. So this is to the right of the odd number will start, and then it will end at 0 at infinity, because the zeros are not finite in this system. Similarly, the locus will start from the you see from this pole and also from this pole. So it will start from this pole, and this will also start from this pole, and then they meet at some point, and then they meet at some point, and it will go to the zeros at infinity, because the zeros are not known. So it will rise into the complex plane. And similarly, the blue one, it will also the green one, it will go into the complex plane as the value of the k will increase. Anyhow, this example, you see, this is a rough sketch. The first thing, from this example, we try to understand the number of branches again is equal to the